Okay, so I thought I'd make a video about 922 compliance, right? And let me get into this here. I was in a pawn shop, and I saw it was a nice Russian SKS. They wanted $4.99 for it, and I'm like, oh, maybe I can talk them down. And I noticed that it didn't have a box mag. It was already meant to take detachables, and it was filthy inside. I didn't know if it was going to have any damage. I didn't know. I was assuming it was going to be clean, but I'm like, man, I might have to put some money into this guy if everything's damaged, because it wasn't well kept. So I'm trying to talk the guy down, and I'm like, look, man, this thing isn't even 922 compliant. I'm going to have to put some money into this thing, and it's filthy. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to, have to put more money into it already, And anyway, I'm heckling with the guy, and then, I'm like, you know what, I really don't need another SKS, so I'm like, it's all right, never mind, because he was going to wait for the manager. I'm like, yeah, hell with it. I don't feel like bothering. But he didn't know about it, and the other two guys in the shop, they didn't know about it either. And not many people do. And those that do, they say, well, 922 compliance is rarely enforced anyway, so there's no real need to comply with it. Now, let me just say, I don't agree with it. I think it's stupid, but, if you're a gun owner, maybe not under this administration, but, there's times when, there's lots of people out there that, they kind of shun gun owners, right? And say, God forbid, you needed to defend yourself with something like this. You never know what happened in, the LA riots. People had to use firearms to defend their homes and their property. So it could happen. Now, say you actually had to shoot somebody that's going to burn you, you and your family alive. Well, even though you defend yourself, your legal right to do so, well, then you might not get pinched on that, but they could tack other charges on you. Right? And, if, let's say that happens, you're not going to do much good to your family, protecting your family behind bars, right? So you want to remain within the confines of the law, and you live in the U.S., right? So, if we were doing things the right way, the Constitution is a set of laws for the government, not for us. If it's not written in the Constitution that they have the ability to do something, then they really can't do it. But you look at everything that's going on, right? The income tax, that's unconstitutional, right? You call up the IRS, they'll tell you volunteer. Now, what happens if you don't volunteer? They'll throw your ass in jail, right? That's the country we live in. And the other thing, I believe in the Second Amendment. I understand what it really means. The history, Joseph Belton, Congress asked Joseph Belton to replicate technology of the puckle gun, which they called a machine gun, into 100 muskets. So they're basically asking this guy to create machine guns for the Continental Army. So they knew about machine guns. They didn't put any kind of limitations or ban them in the Second Amendment. They knew they existed. The puckle gun was around, 72, 73 years before the Constitution, or the Second Amendment, the Constitution was ratified. So, they knew about it. I understand that. Right, but again, I understand too that the country we live in, you got to just better to go with the flow, right? Especially if we got a family. So, here we go. A senseless government law. But the 922 rule states that if you have certain firearms on their list, certain foreign-made firearms, you cannot have more than 10 foreign-made parts on that particular list. So the SKS, the AK, of course, the Sega, Vepers, I forget, but there's like 4 or 5 firearms on that list. So if you have one of those rifles and you leave it in its stock configuration, you're fine. Once you alter the configuration to take detachable magazines, you've put yourself in the 922 land where you have to comply with no more than 10 foreign parts on their list. So, again, 922, really, my understanding, it's more for importation purposes. And the model they used to base it off of was the SKS, the D or M series, I forget. The the SKS, they can take AK magazines, detachable AK magazines. That's what they use, but you got gun laws made by people that don't understand guns. Well, you know, that can shoot all over the place. So, you just want to do this to be safe and sorry. So again, so they don't put extra charges. You got to use this to defend your life. Yes, people have had to use rifles like this to defend their life. LA, riots. People got on their roofs to protect their property and their homes and businesses. So it could happen. Now, say somebody wanted to torch the building you're in with your family inside it. If you were to shoot them and save your life and your family's life, you would be, most likely, I guess depending on where you are, but, you'd be legal within your right to defend yourself with deadly force because you had to. Now, even though they probably wouldn't get you for that, they could still tack on other charges just to make your life hell. So that's what this is trying to avoid. So, again, if you get an SKS or any other rifle on that list and you leave it in stock configuration, you have nothing to worry about. I bought this rifle. It was already made to take the detachable magazines. I bought it years ago. I showed you the video. And, I'm like, well, if I had a nice Russian SKS matching serial numbers, I would have left it intact. But that's not what I bought. I got a hell of a price, but, hey, it wasn't all matching. It wasn't complete. I wanted a project gun, and here it is. Right, I got that anyway. Now, on the list, there's certain parts on the list that you need to get down number of 10 or less. So, for example, this receiver cover is not on the list, and I'm going to leave the list in the description bar. There's the actual list, I think it's from the BATF, and then there's the TAPCO. The TAPCO is not accurate, but if you went through those steps, you still would be legal. Like, for example, they count this, the grip, as a part. However, the SKS does not have a hand grip, so therefore, adding a U.S.-made hand grip would not make a difference. Right? Now, if you were to put a foreign-made hand grip, like something off an AK that was foreign, then that would count towards a foreign part. However, a made in USA part that it's not really on a rifle anyway, it doesn't give you a point. Right? So, on the SKS, the parts that you have on the list, you got your hammer, your trigger, and your sear. Those are 10 parts that, if you modify it, that count. So if you were to change them out and put USA parts, that would be 3. Foreign parts, less, right? You want to get to 10 foreign parts on the list, 10 or less. So, depending on what list you look at, the TAPCO says 17, the Uncle Sam says 15. So, we'll go with the 15. So, if you took the hammer, trigger, and sear, you'd go from 15 foreign-made parts down to 12, right? So, that'd be 3 parts right there. And then, you can go different combination. The body and the stock, that would be 2 points, so that gets you down to 12, right? Also, the magazine, TAPCO has this as 3 parts. It's really only 2 because there is no actual floor plate on the SKS, so it would be the magazine, body, and follower. So it's actually 2. But again, it doesn't count as 2 foreign parts, so adding 3 American parts would make a difference as far as this particular part. Magazine counts as 2, so if TAPCO counts magazine, body, and the base plate as 3 parts, it really doesn't make a difference because it's not there in the first place. Then you've got your hand guard. For some reason, the wood on an SKS, well, that's, of course, going to make it much more deadly if it's whittled from wood in a foreign country, but, that's one of the parts. This, I believe, is made in the U.S., but it's not marked. I bought it at a gun show. They said it was, but I don't know. It's not marked. It's better to have it marked. And then you've got the gas piston, right? Exact same piece of steel as the original, except it says TAPCO USA. That USA makes it less deadly, I guess. I don't know. And here you go. Here's the hand guard. Now, the gas tube, again, it's a USA part, but because it's not on that list, this foreign part, if I was to change it out and put this USA made one, it wouldn't matter because it's not on the list. Just parts on the list count. So again, I'll just go over them real quick and what you can change out to be compliant. You've got hammer, trigger, sear. Those are 3 parts on the list. You can swap out for USA parts. You've got the magazine body and base plate, or magazine body and follower. So that'd be 2 parts that you can replace for USA parts. You've got the hand guard. If you got a USA part, that would count. And the gas piston inside, that would count. And if you have a Yugoslavian, the grenade launcher would count if you remove it. Now, keep in mind, let's say you have a Yugoslavian like I do, and you replace a foreign part, and you put a Naxtar or something, it's also foreign. Well, then you took off a foreign part, you added a foreign part, you know, you're in the exact same spot. This is a Ken Arnold compensator. I've got a Tapco gas piston. This no brand hand guard gas tube cover, but you know that may or may not, but still be under the legal or under the required number. Magazine, follower, and body. That's 2 more parts, right? And then the trigger and the hammer I replaced with USA parts. So I'm more than in compliance there. Again, if you left it in the stock configuration, it would apply to you. Seeing how I did get it already to take detachable magazines, it's something I figured, hey, it's best to do, right? And I got to know this thing pretty well, right? But anyway, there you go. I'll leave the list of the 922 compliance list in the description bar, and that's pretty much it. Remember, again, it has to be parts on the list to count. So again, the receiver cover, it's not on the list. Replacing this makes no difference. It needs to be on the list to count, right, towards 922 compliance. If you leave it in stock configuration, you're fine. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about that. Alright guys, y'all have a good one.